Chris Lee and Blake Lovell from Southeastern 14 here. Today we are talking about Auburn's matchup with Arkansas. That one starts at noon Eastern on the SEC Network. The Razorbacks about 3.5-point favorites with an over-under of 61.5, which implies a final score of 33-29 in Arkansas's favor. Of course, Auburn hosting this game. Blake, both teams had weeks off last week, and I think both probably needed it for different reasons.
Yeah, you said what I was going to say. I think it was a much needed off week for both teams. We obviously we know everything kind of with Auburn in terms of the coaching situation, all that. That's been the main storyline. But I think something that actually, if you kind of look at how they played, Chris, I don't think there have been some glimpses, right? I think of even in
Yeah.
this losing streak they've certainly had some spots where, really since that Missouri game that we talked about just was one that was, I don't again, it feels like both teams lost that one, but really in this 3-game losing streak, you've seen some decent things from Auburn. It's just, a matter of the schedule's not been easy, right? You played LSU, road games at Georgia, at Ole Miss, but we've seen kind of I think the offense at Ole Miss, there were some encouraging things. Obviously, the way they started against LSU, but beyond that, a lot to figure out. And then for Arkansas, we managed just the health. I mean, they just needed a week off just from the brutal schedule that they played, and it doesn't get any easier the rest of the way. So yeah, it was a needed bye week, and I'm curious to see how both teams kind of regroup from where they are.
Yeah, and look, both these teams have played brutal schedules. Jeff Sagarin's strength of schedule numbers, Arkansas, 7th toughest schedule in the country. Auburn's number 2. So sometimes these teams struggle, but sometimes it's got a lot to do with who they play. Let's talk about when Arkansas's got the ball. The Razorbacks averaged 32.7 a game. Auburn giving up 28.3. Arkansas loves to run the ball. Arkansas averages, let's see, what is it, 47 rush plays a game. If you take out sacks and count those as pass plays, teams like to run the ball in Auburn a bit too. 40 attempts a game. Auburn is giving up 5.4 yards per rush play, which is exactly what Arkansas gets per pass play. Arkansas averaging 8.1 per attempt. Auburn giving up 5.8. Blake, I don't think it's going to be any secret the Razorbacks are going to want to run the ball, and Auburn has not been very good at defending it. You remember what Ole Miss did to Auburn a couple of weeks ago. I think, again, probably not a lot of mystery in terms of what's going to happen. And when KJ Jefferson needs to throw the ball, the Razorbacks have been pretty good there also.
Yeah, getting him back, we saw, was a big difference maker at BYU and what they were able to do offensively in that game. Put up 52 points on the road here. I don't know if they put up 52 in this one, but like you said, it's pretty easy to figure out what the game plan is going to be. Auburn 119th nationally rushing defense. It's last in the SEC, of course, and I think that is clearly something you zoom in on here and look at with Jefferson back and just his ability to beat them in both areas. And I think that's the biggest key to me in this game is kind of looking at what he brings to the table, knowing that Arkansas is going to run the ball, but they're not just running it with their running back. They're going to have a quarterback that can run it and put up some yardage. And I think a product too of that number for Auburn is just, the teams they play, like we said, what LSU can do. Obviously Georgia, and we know the rushing attack of Ole Miss. So that brings that number up a bit with how many yards they gave up to Ole Miss. But let's be honest, when Arkansas is running the way they can run, I'm not saying they're Ole Miss, but they're pretty good. I mean, they're pretty close to that. Again, I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but they can be just as hard to stop. So yeah, it's very clear if Auburn wants to win this game, they got to slow down Arkansas's rushing attack.
Okay, shout out to our title sponsor, Stakes. That's Stakes. Go to the app today. Get your predictions on the record. You can predict anything in the game for free. See how you measure up against fans and influencers. You can flex your wins. You can broadcast your wins to our community of sports fans with just a few taps, and you can earn credibility by building your public predictions track record, by winning competitions and NFT trophies for making the perfect calls. Go to playwithstakes.com. That's STAKES /14. Sign up. Use the invite code Southeastern14 for a double welcome bonus. Okay. Other side of the ball, pretty interesting too. It's been interesting to see Arkansas try to defend anything and anybody. It has been interesting to see Auburn try to move the ball on anything and anybody. Arkansas giving up 32.6 a game. Auburn only scoring 22.3. Here's something. Arkansas has got 21 sacks. Auburn has given up 18. Arkansas is giving up 5.4 per rush play. Auburn averaging 5.3. The Razorbacks are giving up 7.4 yards per pass play. Auburn averaging 6.2. You might say, well, Arkansas's defense is giving up more yards per attempt. Yes, it is. But we take sacks out of that, and Arkansas gets a bunch of them, which makes the pass defense a little better. It's where both teams struggle. How do you see this one, Blake?
Well, I think again we kind of look at the history, and I think it goes back to what you talked about in terms of the schedules. And I mean, think about the teams Arkansas has played that have certainly been able to put up some points, and we talked about them kind of being banged up a bit as well. Look, Alabama, road game, Mississippi State, like you give up 40 plus in both of those games. I mean, a BYU team, we figured we're going to put up some points, yet Arkansas is still able, like we said, to win that game by 17. Go back to Cincinnati and South Carolina. Like, they've played some teams that can score points. And I think when you look at where Auburn's offense ranks among what they've seen thus far, I don't think we're saying anything, demeaning in terms of Auburn's going to be lower on that list in terms of, what Arkansas has seen defensively. And I think that's where, Blaine kind of brought it up. I know Robbie Ashford's numbers were not, perfect against Ole Miss, but again, you've seen some glimpses, I think, of what they can do. And of course, Tank Bigsby, we've said it's been the strength of their offense, and he's going to have to be the guy, moving forward that is going to just have to will them to some of these, kind of wins in these games. And I think that's obviously for Arkansas's defense, you're keying in on him. But I think you're going to challenge Robbie Ashford and make them beat you through the air, because that was something else too, Chris, right? About the Ole Miss game. I mean, I think Auburn had 8 completions, and there's only one wide receiver that had like 2. I think everybody else had 1. So I think the passing game here, especially what we've seen with Arkansas secondary, right? That's something to really think about. And it's can Auburn get that going, with Robbie Ashford against this Arkansas secondary, and how much better is the Arkansas secondary coming off of a bye, just being able to get a little bit of rest and those kind of things. So all kind of interesting questions with this dynamic, but Arkansas's defense, as we know, has not been great. I think 128th nationally in passing yards allowed per game. A lot of points scored against them, almost 33 points a game. But this is not, I just don't think this is necessarily the kind of offense they've seen in terms of just an offense that's just going to run up that score, right? And so I think that's at least something maybe you kind of look at in Arkansas's favor here. And I think just having the bye week helps a little bit there too.
Okay, some miscellaneous stuff before we give our picks. Arkansas getting penalized 69 yards a game, Auburn 54. FEI special teams rankings, Arkansas 109, Auburn 52. And turnover margin, this is a big one, Blake. Arkansas 0, Auburn and SEC worst -11. I know this is the place where you like to throw in some trends and things like that, so let's do that before we get to picks.
All right, some random stats from covers, which I just love their stats. If we looking at the numbers here, we talk about, I mean, the overs hit in 5 of Arkansas's 7 games this season, which again I don't think is a surprise given what they can do offensively, and for Arkansas what they've given up on the other side of the ball. So that's an interesting one. But if you look at it here, the under 6-0 in Arkansas's last 6 games, dating back to whenever this is, against a team with a losing record. So that's kind of interesting. Auburn 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 games following a bye week. So that goes way back when, but that's just an interesting trend you can look at over the years. And if you look at the actual matchup here, Chris, here's the one I find fascinating. The over 7-1, the last 8 games between Arkansas and Auburn. So that is one you kind of look at too. I mean, I think I'm going to go Arkansas here. I just again, I want to kind of see it from Ole Miss or Auburn's offense, and I feel like Arkansas having the bye week. We said that's. I don't think that's a bad team. I think it's just a team that ran into a gauntlet
Yeah.
with a banged up defense and a quarterback that was out, injured in one of those. Like I just think it was a bad kind of setup for Arkansas at that point. So I think they're good enough to go on the road and run the ball effectively enough to get a win here. Would not be surprised if this is kind of a close game. What the spread I think is 3.5 or 4. Um, I think Auburn keeps it within that range. So I think it's actually, to me, this feels like a field goal type game. But
Mhm.
again, that's all dependent on can Auburn take advantage of some of those things of Arkansas's deficiencies we've seen at times defensively.
And did you say you're taking the over or the under?
Uh, I don't have a great feel. What is it? It's 60.5. That's a lot.
Yeah, well,
Um,
let me give you something interesting, and you wouldn't think this, but if you take what these teams, the over under should be based on what these teams have given up so far, it's 57.9. So rounded up to 58. The over under is actually 61.5. I feel crazy, but I like the under in this game. I just feel like it's going to be a slow tempo game. Both teams are going to try to run the ball. I like Arkansas to win and to cover because of that turnover number, and
well,
also because of morale. Blake, I think
yeah,
that
that's true.
if and the Auburn has not given up. Auburn has played hard.
No.
Auburn could have thrown in the towel against Missouri, or excuse me, Ole Miss, and did not. But I just feel you look at the direction these two seasons, Arkansas's maybe got a chance for some new life, maybe earn a really nice bowl game, and Auburn is playing for I'm not sure what at this point.
Well, that's a good point, and I think it again. If you just looked at the score lines of the last two games, you may look at this with Auburn and say, "Boy, my goodness, going beat by 2 touchdowns at Ole Miss, blown out at Georgia." But I know it's crazy to say, like there were some glimpses of some things in these games that you can take away and say maybe they can build on this. But the bigger point you mentioned, Arkansas is coming off a big win at BYU. Like that was a huge
Yeah,
win in terms of their morale to stop their own losing streak. Maybe good time to have the bye from that standpoint to get healthy. Maybe a bad time in terms of momentum. But I just think to this point, Arkansas is still the better team, and I think in these kind of games when you look at kind of that glaring rushing attack versus a rushing defense that's given up a lot. I just feel like you play to that strength, and that's why, yeah, I'm going to take
yeah.
Arkansas on this one.
Okay, thank you for watching. We preview every single SEC football game this season. Best way to catch those is hit that subscribe button. We do a live show every Wednesday night where we update and elaborate on our picks. Anyway, thank you for watching Southeastern 14. We'll see you again soon with another SEC football prediction video.